channel. My name is Tate, and if you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. So it's good to have you here, and thank you so much for the continued support. Environmental law is a fast emerging field, and I often get questions from some of you asking what is required in order for someone to practice or to get into this field. One of the questions that I received was whether or not a master's in environmental law is necessary for someone who wants to practice or work in the field. I actually did a master's in environmental law, and I thought I should just share its usefulness to me and some practical benefits that I got from it, and maybe also touch a little bit on some of the cons of doing such a master's. So I did a full-time Master of Laws, like coursework and research in the field of environmental law, and therefore it was specialized in that way. Under this master's, you're required to complete a research report of about 10,000 words and also do 4 courses of your choice from what is being offered in your field of study. So for the courses, you're going to have at least 2 core courses and 2 non-core courses. And the difference between the two is that with a core course, there is an additional requirement for you to do a short research essay of about 5,000 to 7,000 words, if I'm not mistaken, which will count for 50% of your final mark in that core course. So there is no research component in your non-core courses. So basically, to put it simply, your core courses are like your majors for that particular master's. So for me, my 2 core courses were climate change and energy, and then comparative law of mining and environment. And my non-core courses were water law and law and sustainability. My LLM research report was on artisanal small-scale mining in South Africa. As some of you who may know, it is a big problem in South Africa, and currently there is a legislative gap in our law, thus the industry is not properly regulated. So now I don't want to go into detail about the courses or my research report because that is not the point of this video. However, I thought it was worth mentioning now, as it will come relevant later when I start talking about the usefulness of this master's to me. So basically, a master's degree, despite whatever field you're going to be specializing in, is not a walk in the park. And for me, I just thought it was necessary for me to do it, especially with the kind of work that I wanted to do. It's something that I've always wanted to do, and I told myself that I would do it at the very least because that is the kind of minimum qualification I wanted for myself. But also because I wanted to get as much training as I could in environmental law, because that had always been my choice of specialization even before I started working in the sector. And for some of you who may know, this is something I've always wanted to do even before I went to law school. So firstly, in terms of whether or not this degree was useful to me, the first thing is environmental law is a very complex and technical field, and the master's degree, especially in environmental law, really helps you to break down some of the critical issues, and you can get in-depth understanding of these issues. This is what it also did with me, and that's why I'm putting it out there, that it can actually really help you to understand a lot of issues around environmental law more clearly. And then the other thing is it makes it easier to work in the field. So for me, because I did my master's straight after my LLB, so I only started working after I'd completed my master's. So when I got into the field, it was very easy for me because I was in a position where I really understood the issues from like a much more advanced level. So it was easier for me when I finally started working because I now had a broader and deeper understanding of the main issues. This even made my learning process a bit easier as I could understand discussions and also contribute on a higher level because I already had the background to the issues and thoughts on them as well. I didn't know everything there is to know in the fields, but the master's degree really jump-started me. I don't think anybody can ever know everything there is to know in a particular field, but then in this case, the master's really helped me to delve down and deep into those issues. And by the time I started working, it was a bit easier for me because I actually knew what people were talking about in the room. I didn't have to like get environmental law 101 lecture or lesson when I started. I was on another level. And then the other thing is that most of the work I am doing now is made easier by virtue of the fact that I have background from my master's degree. I do a lot of mining and environment work now, and for example, like I mentioned earlier, mining and climate change issues are topics that we really dived in depthly during my master's. So now it's easier for me to deal with such issues and to understand the issues and actually like get engaged, discuss, and really think more about them. Like I said earlier, a master's degree is not a walk in the park. Even practice in environmental law is not a walk in the park. But the background that I got from masters, the kind of training that I got from my masters, and the introduction to some of the key issues to look at when it comes to this issue really helps me. Also, I do quite a lot of work on water and sustainability issues in general. So nothing that I did in my master's degree was in vain. It's actually work I'm still working on right now, and I'm just using that information. I'm just using that knowledge to apply to my current work practice. And sometimes I even go back to my master's content and get answers to whatever I'll be struggling with, or just to get an idea of, well, how did we deal with this issue in class, and then try and see how it actually works practically. Because like I said earlier, nothing I did actually went to waste. Another thing about a master's is that you can easily become an expert in the field or a certain area because you've spent time studying or researching it. So generally, a master's degree is like a step into expertise, right? You're going to get certain skills that somebody else with just a normal bachelor's degree may not have, so that puts you on another level. But also, because you spend so much time researching or studying a particular issue, it's easier for you to become the go-to person when it comes to those issues. Like, for example, I mentioned earlier that my master's research report was on artisanal and small-scale mining in South Africa, and right now, even in my work practice, if an issue comes and it's around artisanal and small-scale mining in South Africa, people can easily just say, go and talk to Tatenda because she knows more about it. And why is that? Because I did spend quite a little bit of time working on it. So now I've become like the go-to person. It's not to say that I know everything there is to know when it comes to artisanal and small-scale mining, but then I just got that extra little advantage of the fact that I actually spend a little bit more time digging down on it, and I'm now using the skills that I learned there during that research process even to my work practice as well. My next point is that the master's really opens up your mind. Okay, that's the most important thing about a master's degree. No matter what master's degree you're going to do, whether it's in environmental law or whatever, it really opens up your mind. It challenges you to think outside the box, to be analytical. That is, you can even analyze information or data that is before you and actually be able to deduce what it means. Sometimes you get statistics like data, proper raw data, and you have to look at it and actually be like, what does this information mean? And because masters trains you to think like that, it's very easier for you to actually deduce, what is this information saying? What does it mean? So how are we going to apply it to our issue and actually get a good solution out of it? So, it really stretches you intellectually as well and helps you to become a problem solver, engage with other people, and also impart knowledge. For example, the class discussions that you have during your masters. If you've been in a master's class, class discussions are a thing. There's something called reaction papers that you have to present to your peers, and then they critique you, they ask you questions. You guys have a follow-up discussion afterwards, and it really teaches you how to deliver knowledge to other people in a way that they can understand, but also to engage with them. It teaches you professionalism. How do you deal with people who are even criticizing the knowledge you're imparting? How do you respond to questions that come your way when it comes to the knowledge that you're imparting? I don't think this is something you can learn from a general bachelor's degree. They don't really get to that level, but in a master's class, that is something that you're always going to be doing, and it really gives you the confidence to talk about any issue, especially in the fields that you want to go into. You become so comfortable talking about the issues, discussing them with other people, and that's the kind of skill you need, especially in the legal profession. It's the kind of skill you need to be able to just talk to other people and engage with them and impart knowledge, have healthy debates, have healthy arguments about a particular issue. That's what law is all about. And this is one critical skill you're really going to learn from a master's degree, whether or not you're going to specialize in environmental law or any other field. Another thing about a master's is that it enhances your research skills, and research skills are very important. This is a skill you need in the legal field, whether or not you want to be an academic or a researcher. In the legal field, you're always going to be researching about something, and it kind of gives you that extra advantage where research is a key thing to a master's degree. Ultimately, no matter what kind of masters you're going to be doing, whether you're going to do bare coursework and research, or you're going to do research full-time. Research is a key component in your master's degree, so it really teaches you research skills. And when you're researching even on your particular issue, you don't just read one journal and you're like, I'm done, and you don't just read one area and then you say you're done. Like, it really teaches you to even stretch to other fields as well. So like, that's the kind of thing you also need, especially in environmental law, because remember, the thing about environmental law is it interacts with other sectors quite a lot. It interacts with politics, it interacts with social issues, economic issues, and you're supposed to be able to look into those areas to try and solve your particular problem. So that skill that you're going to get from your master's, like, how do I research? How do I go about it? Like, what is my issue and where am I going to find all the sources? This is the kind of critical issue you also take into practice. A master's is not just for people who want to be academics or researchers. Even if you want to increase your skills in your specialization, you can also do a master's degree. It will really help you in so many ways. Overall, I'll just say that studying a master's in environmental law was very useful for me, because it's really opened up my mind, helped me to understand the issues on a much deeper level and really engage with them. And it's even more aligned with the kind of work that I'm doing here. Nothing I did there is wasted. So for me, it was like the best thing that I ever did for myself, especially before I went into the field. So to answer the hot question, is it necessary for me to do a master's degree in environmental law if I want to get into that field? I think my answer to this is that it's not really an absolute requirement, as in you can't practice environmental law if you don't have a master's in environmental law. No, that is not the case. You can still practice environmental law even without that master's. However, given the depth and complexity of environmental issues and also the way the field is growing, it's a great tool to have. Issues in environmental law, like I said earlier, can be too technical and complex, and a master's in environmental law can really help you to navigate through all of that. Also, environmental law is an emerging field, so there is a rise in the need of expertise. A master's could be advantageous not only to distinguish you from other candidates, but also for you to just have a firm scholarly footing in relation to knowledge of the environmental law field. Competition in the field is very high. Not a lot of law firms offer it. So it's also a good thing to just have a master's degree in environmental law, especially in your pocket, if you want to get into this field, or if you want to improve yourself or improve your knowledge in the field as well. So generally, I think it is a very good thing to have, especially if you want to practice or specialize in environmental law or related fields. But if you don't know what you want, or you haven't found your feet, or you're still deciding what to do with your life, I wouldn't advise you to go for this particular master's degree, because firstly, it is highly specialized, okay? And it is for a highly specialized field. So it will not be of much use for you if you end up in another field that is not even related to environmental law in any way, because then it will be a waste of time. It's very important, if you know that you're really going to work on environmental or related issues, and this master's will really be useful for you, because then you're going to be using it in almost all the other things that you're going to be working on. Nevertheless, there's certain general skills that you acquire during a master's degree experience, despite which one you're going to do. These skills always remain with you, especially if you're paying attention in class. These skills can be like critical thinking skills, research skills. Ultimately, a master's degree is never a waste. No matter what field you're going to go in, even if you realize later on that that's not the field you want to go into, it's never really a waste, because there are some key skills that degree is teaching you, apart from the substantive knowledge of whatever field you're going to be going into. There's just some things that a master's degree teaches you that you can carry anywhere in any part of life that you're going to decide to take. So yeah, I do find a master's in environmental law or related particularly useful, especially if that is the field that you eventually want to go and work in. Law practice will always enhance your skills. Like I said, you can never know everything, but for me, the master's in environmental law provided a firm footing, and the bonus is that it's knowledge and skill that will always come in handy almost every day of your professional life, especially if you end up in the environmental law sector. So it's something I'll definitely advise you to do. Like I said earlier, I would not say it's absolutely necessary for you to have, but it's something that I would say you need to at least consider doing it, especially if you want to practice in the environmental law sector. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please don't hesitate to leave any questions or comments that you might have on master's degree studies or law or any environmental law specific issues. I'm really happy to answer any of that. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do subscribe to my channel. And please go and watch other videos that I made, such as why I became an environmental lawyer and the other videos that are part of this series of my legal journey.